So I can use this as a roving mic if anybody has questions. I'll walk out to you. Laura.
Do you think the business you mentioned that's come from the past few years, or the recognition that the previous sort of way of doing things was unsustainable, which do you think would have more of an impact on the European elections?
You know that it is very difficult to quantify things like that. Even exit polls are not safe. But there are two schools of thought. And what I'm saying is from what I studied, what I read, and what I get as vibes. I will speak about Greece. I cannot speak on a European level because it becomes even more diversified and even more difficult. I think that it is a very interesting milestone, these upcoming European Parliament elections. People love and support the European idea, talking about the whole continent, there is no doubt about it. And especially periphery countries who have been affected, because there is where you could expect something like that. So I will speak about Greece, saying that there is a possibility that people will pass the message that we would love things to be done in a more humane and realistic way, focusing on the social cohesion, because what we are talking about is how to protect the social cohesion. Let's say we do not want to create a new European proletariat. We need to help certain countries who are in a weak position to move forward. Of course, always with a conditionality. And the conditionality is performance and responsibility. I would never speak, let's say, that you do favors to those who have violated certain criteria, but you do it in a sustainable way. So I think that this is a message which is latent. To which degree it is going to be expressed during the upcoming elections is a question mark. But I have the feeling that Greeks are warm-tempered people, and they will understand the importance of this election.
Questions?
What do you think can be done by the Greeks to help build that social cohesion, and what path can Greece take to help themselves achieve the growth and take some ownership over their own growth?
My feeling is that when you are broke, let's be very realistic, when you cannot finance development on your own, you need to pay for what you have borrowed. This is a big hemorrhage, and I think that if the idea, if the possibility, the perspective of a debt relief, it may not be total, it may be partial, and I think that there are strong indications, favorable indications in this direction. If this happens, I think that the burden will be much lighter. And since the economic burden is going to be lighter, I think that this will permit to any Greek government in the future to be a better provider of services. I will give an example. Health and education have had a terrible impact. And I think that 30%, statistics say 30%, people of the 30% of the population are in the margin of poverty. So for a European country with an interesting GDP, it was 170 billion, and with a crime, it was 220 billion for 11 million population. That means almost 20,000 euros per person, per capita. Now it is 170. So there is polarization, and in a So I have a feeling that the debt relief is extremely important. There is a tendency to support Greece, and you can see this with the improved ratings. You can see this also with public utterances, particularly by the European administration establishment. I think that this is extremely important. But if you ask me deep in my heart, I cannot jubilate because we came in a test trial effort to the bond market. I want to be able to minimize my exposure to the debt market, and I want to do my best in terms of moving forward in a more healthy and solid way. So, coming back to your question, I think that a certain alleviation of the economic burden would be extremely important.
Anyone else? Right up front.
Thank you. Ambassador, one of the great casualties of the Eurozone crisis has been the two main parties in Greek politics, in particular the Socialist Party, PASOK. Do you think some of the support for PASOK has gone into Eurosceptic parties, either of the coalition around Syriza or into possibly even some of the far-right parties like Golden Dawn? Or will people who formerly voted for PASOK just not vote at all? And how does this sit with a kind of a continuing commitment to the euro and the European ideal?
The European ideal passes also from everyday life. And everyone wants to be in a Europe a sovereign and equal partner. So this is one dimension. Political preferences exist in Greece as in every country. Of course, the two main parties, the Socialist and the current party, which is center-right, let me put it in this way, have been from time to time criticized for the past 30 years of non-acceptable, non-satisfactory governance pattern they followed. I have to say very objectively that the current government, which is a coalition government, as you know, that means socialist and center-right, has done a lot, and I would say in a remarkable way. And trying through this chaotic transition to persuade all the actors, it was, in my opinion, a very important accomplishment. And I would say that in the end, the vast majority of the Greek public opinion credits them with this. And this might have a very interesting impact on the outcome of the European Parliament elections regarding this. Because people, it is an interesting dimension. We may be poor at this moment, but we want to be on the safe side. So we want to be in the Eurozone. It is an asymmetry, or let's say an irony, but this is the public feeling. Because the Greek in his psyche is an entrepreneur, a very active, clever individual. So he does not want to be a loser. So I think that this is the psyche which prevails. On the other hand, there are the 1,200,000 unemployed. There is the youth which is cornered because of the circumstances. And you know what has happened? Internal devaluation. The internal devaluation, in my opinion, is the worst nightmare. The basic salary in Greece was, if I'm not mistaken, 980 euros. Today is 480, or maybe 540. I may not recall it well. And it's so difficult to survive. Suddenly, we moved to the 60s. Let me put it in this you can imagine that any other country would not be so patient, would not be so resilient. So there are interesting, let's say, behaviors. We had recently our Minister of Tourism coming to Australia to promote this. And in many interviews she was asked, do you have any strikes? The ugly face we saw some years ago is still there. Is there a strike fatigue? And she said, no, for the last 2 years we don't have things like that, because there were symptoms of a certain reaction, of a certain mentality. Today people have already followed a certain pathway. Without painting rosy the situation, it is interesting to see that there is a potential, but coming to what the lady asked before, this needs to be encouraged, because there is another issue, and I would love, and I thank you very much, Ben, for asking it. Extremism or anti-nationalism. These are issues which are not part of our society, but during difficult times, there can be people who express them. But what is extremely important is that there is a solidity within the Greek population, that it is part of our heritage. We cannot be either supremacists or nurturing bad feelings. We do know that I will give you another dimension which is even more important. Do you know that during this difficult transition, illegal immigration, because we are the gateway to Europe, as you know. Before we had Afghanistan as a point of origin. Today we have Syria because of the humanitarian crisis. So we receive at least 44,000 people today. 44,000 people a year in a crisis country. It's extremely important. So it is not only the economic condition, it is not only the illegal immigration dimension, it is also the general volatility of the region. So in my humble opinion, coming back to your question, there may be criticism for certain parties, but in the end, I think that a very important majority of the Greeks realize that certain things had to be accomplished. That they do not agree with the loss of sovereignty and the very draconian terms of austerity. They would have loved a better, let's say, understanding which would give more breathing space. And to tell you the truth, if you ask me, I have the feeling that always, on a general European level, it is extremely important somebody who is at the highest echelons of the European establishment to take note of all the ugly, let's say, manifestations of bad vibes, bad responses, when you oppress too much economically, when you strangulate a society. In my humble opinion, this does not apply only to Greece. It could apply to any society. And I think that in Europe we have the tradition, we have the maturity, we have the vision to avoid these things. That's why this is what makes me confident that it is going to be a very interesting chapter in the European history. Let's say the canvas is Europe. It depends what kind of coloring we are going to use. And of course the European Parliament, the new Commission, Member States are stakeholders who can really contribute.
So Peter, question?
I have two related questions about the issue of debt relief. First of all, what sort of feedback do you think the government in Greece is getting from its European partners about the issue of debt relief? And also, on a related issue, do you think it's too early to start talking about the issue of fiscal transfers? Because, which of course sound like a radical idea, but and would require changes to the treaties. But effectively, the EU is a federation, really, and that's what federations do. Australia subsidises rural areas, and certainly Germany has, and France and some of these countries have been the biggest beneficiaries of being in the euro. So that's what happens in a federal union. Do you think it's too early to start putting that on the agenda?
I have to confess that my level is very much low and humble, let's say, to be able to answer this question and to give a credible answer. But I feel that an indication of this kind of aspiration, let's call it an aspiration from the part of the Greek side, has been brought to the attention of the Eurogroup. So I remember the reply was by the chairman of the Eurogroup that it is something which will have to be discussed in September. And what made the discussion timely was the fact that the European Statistics Service, last April, I think it was on the 23rd, had the opportunity to confirm that there is a surplus in the budget of 2013 and that we are on track. So, without expecting spectacular and big things, I think the fact that, let's say, as a diplomat, as a part of your toolbox, you bring this issue, in my opinion, it is timely. I do not say that the conditions are mature. I do not say that at the highest level, member states and other actors will feel the same. But if you ask me, a very persuasive argument, apart from performance and responsibility, which I think that can be credited to Greece. Not in a, let's say, jubilant way, but in a pragmatic, realistic way, with all the difficulties, with all the ups and downs, is that we must help this country in order to avoid bad symptoms. And for me, this is the political consideration. If you ask me, I don't, I say it because I'm a part of this civil society. And I breathe with them, I see them, and I see the dreams of the young generation. So I would love not to see people falling into the trap either of extremism or of, how can I say, more combative or aggressive attitudes. For me, this is what is extremely important. It is not an economic argument, but it is extremely important. And I think that if it is being considered, if it is within the radar of the European intelligentsia and the highest echelons, maybe this will be a very interesting dimension to be safeguarded, because I cannot see a future for young people who will have as possibility to live with very few means. I don't see a possibility young people to be obliged to be expatriated. There are limitations even in this direction. And if everything suffers in a society, imagine that the logic of despair is something very bad. I touch these kind of wounds because I don't see similar things in any other member state. That's why you see that in our case, the assistance was much bigger. The remedies were even more necessary. A lot of work has been done. It is extremely interesting. But we live in a real environment, and there are expectations. It's difficult. So coming back to your question, yes, you can say in the sense that convention may not have matured, but I think that it has started as a subject for consideration. And I would, let's say, very much support our Minister of Finance, who brought the issue and said in a very humble and realistic way that, look, this is something which is within a framework we have agreed. Let's say, from the moment that Europe herself certifies that there is good management, there is performance, there are repayments, there is everyday life, there is everything there. From the moment that there is a structural surplus, it is an issue which can be discussed. In my humble opinion, it can have a beneficial psychological impact. I'm not predicting drastic changes, very spectacular outcomes, but I think that it is extremely reasonable pursuing the Greek national interest within the European context and trying to do the best, because you have to alleviate the burden from society. We were discussing before how you can perform. You can perform not only by having changed your mindset, you can perform only if the creditors can give you a small breathing space. This is where we are. And the 5 years which have already passed, as I described before, with 70 billions already paid, is, in my opinion, enough proof that there is performance, there is devotion to the cause. If this was not the case, I would very happily agree that it would be pyrotechnics. It is not.
Yeah, well, does anyone have questions? We're running out of time anyway, so I'm thinking we should all give another round of applause to Haris Dafaranos. And we'll break for the next lectures. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure and honor. And sometimes you are a diplomat, but it does not mean that you have to be diplomatic all the time. Thank you.